Hello, everybody. That sounds like Harry Carey.
Yeah, you're not Harry Carey.
No. Hello, everybody. Hey, this is Jeff Hickox, and this is the first episode, the inaugural, should I say, under the circumstances?
Very first episode
of Beyond Mount Rushmore, the history you never knew you needed.
You going to introduce me then?
Just give me a second.
Jeez.
I am Jeff Hickox, as I said before, and across from me is a very annoyed Stan Nawalonic. He is our self-proclaimed presidential historian.
Yes, and thank you for that fine introduction. and since this is our first episode, and you're saying, who are these guys? Maybe you know who we are. Maybe you don't know who we are. Why don't you, first of all, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, Jeff Hickox?
Sure. We're a couple of local radio veterans. I was at B103, which was a local radio station in Southwest Florida for about, 25 years.
Oh, did you get fired?
Everybody gets fired in radio, except for you.
I just fade away.
And you, Stan, let's everybody know. Well, I'm sure a lot of people know who you are.
Of course, the Stan and Haney Show, 33 years in Southwest Florida, and officially retired. But then we started getting a little bored, and you and I were kicking around the idea, let's do something. And you actually said you love the presidents, and I said, yeah, so let's do something like that. And
well, we used to have these conversations all the time about presidents. I used to love to hear what you would say about the presidents.
And I used to do it on the air, too. So
Right. We were literally having a beer by the pool.
And said, let's do presidents.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a kiddie pool, by a big pool. And so we decided to do this. And if you listen to our promo and stuff, it's the odd and the quirky stuff.
Yeah.
Things that you don't normally get in the history books.
Right. We're not going to do 7 years ago.
Not going to do that at all. We're going to do fun stuff. And I'm going to give, my little slant on it and tell you stuff that you probably wouldn't know. Or probably didn't even want to know, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
Force it right down your throat. So let's get this thing started. And what's your first president? Who we gonna choose first?
And one of the reasons why I've chosen him is one, he's one of my favorite presidents. Because he wasn't in office very long to do anything bad, and secondly is I'm reading yet another book about him, and I have the book right here. It's called Destiny, and it is by Candace Millard, and about his assassination and death, which is just, folks, it's not a president who was assassinated and died. It didn't happen that way.
Didn't go so well.
That's where we're going to talk about it in just a little bit.
Awesome. James Garfield, by the way, I am left-handed. He was the first left-handed president.
Okay.
Yep. Also, he could write Latin in one hand, Greek in the other hand, at the same time.
I knew he was ambidextrous, and that's another thing that I loved about him is our 20th president. Went into office in 1881 after the election of 1880.
Right.
He was a compromise president. He didn't want to become president. He was pushed into it after 30 some odd ballots at the Republican convention.
Right. I forgot about that.
And he didn't want it. And he was kind of pushed into office and pushed to have his vice president picked for him based on stalwarts in New York who controlled things. See, is
that like the mafia, stalwarts?
Well, it's people that, at the time, believe it or not, after Lincoln and Andrew Johnson, Congress wanted to control things more than the president did. And at that point in time, we made you president. Now we're also going to pick who is going to be in your cabinet. And that's why Chester Arthur was his vice president, and we'll get into him in another episode. But that's why he was Garfield's vice president. He wasn't that Garfield chose him and they went around campaigning together. They didn't. You're going to take Chester Arthur, who was elected to nothing.
All right. Well, we'll get to him later. Right now, let's get to Garfield.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Yeah, so I'm anxious to hear what you have for us on President Garfield.
He was sworn into office in March of 1881. It's not like
Not
now.
January 20th?
Nope. That up until I believe Franklin Roosevelt, swearing-in day, inauguration day was in March because they hoped it would warm up a little more, and because communication was so slow to get across the country and into all the other states and to prepare, they decided on March, and then eventually, I think in the 30s, they moved it up to January. But it was March, and again,
I know that
he was assassinated. And I say assassinated, and again, I'm going to preface this. He didn't die.
instantly.
Far from it.
Okay.
He was assassinated on July 2nd, 1881, at the train station in Washington, D.C.
That's 4 months after he became president.
Absolutely. He was still getting his cabinet set. And that was a whole ordeal, too, because you had to go, and anybody that wanted a position as an ambassador or somebody within his cabinet could actually go to the president himself and ask for the job. And part of the president's duty back then was to see guests and job seekers, become postmaster general. And
you would apply for a job. He would do a job interview. The president of the United States of America.
Correct. And one of those guys that felt he deserved a job because he campaigned hard for Garfield, giving one speech that he thought was fantastic, was Charles Guiteau.
So Charles Guiteau was a fan of President Garfield to start?
I don't know if he was a fan more than a loyalist who felt, I gave a great speech. Look at me. You should give me a job.
An attention seeker.
Yes, and he was basically a loner, a bum. You want to talk about a grifter?
Yeah,
that guy would go and stay, like when he was stalking Garfield. He'd stay at the finest hotels in Washington D.C.
Yeah,
get the finest clothing, and say, put it on my tab. I'll take care of it. And never paid. He'd just go to another hotel and say, put it on my tab. I'm being interviewed for an office with the president of the United States. Put it on my tab. I know so-and-so. And that's what he did. And he actually did get a brief meeting with Garfield. Did not last long. And then after a while, Charles Guiteau became such an irritant to the president's personal secretary and other members of Congress that they just said, this guy's a loon, and we're not going to give him any job. He wanted to be ambassador to Paris, I believe, Paris, France. He felt he was entitled to that.
Was he French?
No. Well, Guiteau, I don't know.
Well, that does sound French. Or French-Canadian.
Right. Could be. But by that point in time, he felt slighted.
Yeah.
And he wanted to make a name for himself. And he was going to assassinate President Garfield, and everybody would remember his name. And
I did not know his name before you said it.
Charles Guiteau. And he bought specifically to do the job.
Yeah.
A British Bulldog pearl handle revolver that he kept with him. And he left a note in the last big fancy hotel he stayed in, talking about, well, now you're going to get my full story because I'm going to be famous now, and I'll be glad to tell you everything you want to know about me. Huh. He wanted to become famous.
Yeah.
And, well, he became famous. It was summertime. Garfield's wife, Lucretia, had been ill.
I'm sorry, what?
Lucretia.
Okay.
She had been ill, and in those days, you went to the shore to get well with the sea air.
Right.
And keep in mind, with Garfield, he was only in office for 4 months.
Right.
And his wife had been seriously ill, which took away a lot of his attention to work that needed to be done because he was constantly with his wife, checking in on her. And so in the summertime, she was getting over her illness. And he was in Washington, D.C., and in those days, in the summertime, you left the city because summer meant bugs and germs and mosquitoes and malaria, and you left.
It's amazing
left the city.
that humanity survived.
Yeah,
it really is.
and so he was in the train station to take the trip to meet his wife, the first lady,
At the shore.
to get some of that fresh
air.
sea air. It's true.
I know.
And while in the train station, Charles Guiteau walked up behind him and fired 2 shots at Garfield in his back. And
Wow.
present at the assassination were 2 members of his cabinet who were escorting him to the train station to bid him farewell.
Who were they?
That was his Secretary of State, James Blaine,
Okay.
who he actually did win in getting to be in his cabinet. He fought that and made sure he got his guy.
That's the guy he wanted.
Right. And then Secretary of War, Robert Todd Lincoln, who was Abraham Lincoln's son.
You're kidding me.
Who was there at the assassination of James Garfield.
And his dad.
Yeah,
Was he there for his dad?
He was not at the theater, but he was in Washington, D.C. at the time and was one of the first called to get to his father's side.
Wow. Okay. That sounds like another episode.
So, yeah, well, it will be. But he was shot in the back. Did not hit a vital organ.
Oh.
He fell to the ground. He became, I don't know what was hit, but he started vomiting on the ground and was, well, I guess if you're shot in the back, you're going to
be,
especially if you
shock.
had a heavy meal or something, had some borscht or something, I don't know. But he hit the ground. The train station went nuts, and they immediately captured Guiteau. And he saw firsthand he was not going to be a hero and somebody that was famous. They nearly killed him.
Was there a security? Was there
Secret
Did the
Service?
president have security? Yeah.
No. And you'd think after Lincoln was assassinated, put somebody on him.
Right.
But no, they had regular, police officers there and people keeping an eye. But as far as a Secret Service detail, they didn't have Secret Service detail.
Lesson not learned.
Yeah. And so he goes to the ground, bleeding, vomiting, wreathing in pain, conscious.
Jeez.
And amazingly, at the train station, there were a bunch of doctors there.
Really?
A bunch of them. There was at least 3 or 4 doctors on hand.
All the rich guys heading towards the shore.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you might be right on that.
Yeah.
So all these doctors come up, and he's lying on the train station floor. Mm-hmm. Now go to any bus station here in America, like a Greyhound bus station.
Right.
That floor is filthy.
It's disgusting.
Spit, gum, sperm. It's everything's on the ground. In 1881, they had no idea about germs and that germs could kill you. They could give you an infection. Now, I say that because there was a doctor, his name, Dr. Joseph Lister. He was British.
Lister.
As in Listerine.
Oh, wow. He was there?
No.
Oh.
No. But they all knew of him.
Gotcha.
Dr. Lister was the one that said, you can't see it, but there are germs. And if you're going to operate on somebody, if you're going to go and use your hands, keep the area clean.
Right.
So that germs don't get in. Well, while American doctors were very well aware of what Dr. Lister was saying, they didn't believe it. We can't see this. It's not germs. We're doctors. We know what we're doing. Get away from us, you British limey. And seriously, that's the way they looked at it. Right. You don't know. We're Americans.
It's not that far after.
No, and so he's on the ground, and immediately doctors start poking around at him. Where's the wound? Let's lift his shirt up. Let's take his jacket off. Let me go in there with a finger and probe in there.
Lord.
Now, there was one doctor there, his name, Dr. Charles Purvis. He was one of the nation's first African-American black surgeons.
Wow.
And he got to him, and he was well aware of what Dr. Lister had said.
Yeah.
Be careful here, germs.
Yeah.
But the other doctors there said, how dare you?
You don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Get away. And they carried him. They moved him up to an upstairs platform to get him away from the crowd. And then his personal doctor showed up. His name was Dr. Willard Bliss. He came complete with his various unsanitized probes.
Ouch.
And decided to go poke around in there.
Oh, my goodness.
In the wound. Now, keep in mind, Garfield is conscious.
Yeah.
The bullet hit no vital organs. And they're digging around in there with fingers, bare hands, not even washed hands, probes that were full of germs, and one doctor after another wanting to stick their finger in there because they could find the bullet.
Right.
They couldn't find the bullet. They didn't even have an idea where the bullet went.
No.
They were trying to find the track to the bullet with their fingers. I'm going to tell you real quick.
Jeez.
One of the doctors who went in there with a probe.
Yeah.
And he said, I can't find that damn bullet. And as he was pulling the probe out of the president's wound,
yeah,
it got stuck. It got hooked onto a rib, and he's trying to pull it out and trying to force it out. And Garfield's, screaming in pain, and the doctor says, "Don't worry about it. Let me put another dirty one in there." Oh. I'm telling you, this is the truth. So they get him finally stabilized, and they got to go and get him out of there. Now, does he go to a hospital? I
would think he should.
Does the president of the United States go to a hospital? No.
Where did he go?
He went back to the White House where Dr. Bliss, his personal physician,
right, in his dirty hands and dirty tools,
said, "I know what's best," and basically secluded him in the White House, put him in his bed, and closed off everybody. I will tend to his well-being. Naturally, infection set in, and his infection was getting worse by the day because every single day, multiple times during the day, they would go and try to probe for the bullet.
Jeez.
And he was getting sick. Infection sick.
Yeah.
And finally, his Dr. Bliss is like beside himself. I can't find this GD bullet anywhere. Where the heck is it?
Yeah.
Because he didn't have x-rays. I can't. Wait a second. Alexander Graham Bell down the road, the guy who invented the telephone.
Right.
And he was famous there then because he had invented the telephone already.
Right.
This thing is going to revolutionize, and he was a bigwig, and he was coming up with another invention.
What is that?
The metal detector.
Oh.
He was devising in his laboratory a metal detector, so Dr. Bliss and the White House personnel said, hold on a second. The famous Alexander Graham Bell has this prototype of a metal detector. For sure, he can find the bullet. Then we can go and put more dirty probes in there and some, clips and pliers and pull that bullet out. And so they called Alexander Graham Bell over.
Yeah.
And he set up his metal detecting equipment.
Yeah.
And he brought the metal detector over the president. But the thing was going nuts. It just kept going off. And he goes, I swear to God, guys, I have this thing calibrated correctly. It shouldn't be doing this. I was just back at the lab, and I can find a coin 100 feet away. I can certainly find the bullet in our president. Go bring the metal detector over again. Nothing. It was going off like mad. Couldn't detect where the bullet was. And Alexander Graham Bell left in shame. that he failed the president of the United States. He couldn't find that bullet with his new invention, the metal detector.
Was it really in there? Did it go through him?
No, it was there.
It was in there.
It was there.
Huh.
Here's the thing.
What?
In the 1880s, well, up until the 1880s, when you lied down in a bed, it was usually a straw-filled bed.
Right.
It was usually made of wood. It was a wood box they'd fill with fluff stuffing in the mattress. The president had one of the first metal springs bed.
I was just going to say that
Nobody told Graham Bell about.
Right.
That you didn't even think to question, is there springs? And nobody knew. It was a rare thing to have a spring bed, and nobody was smart enough. Well, they're probing fingers in a wound, and he's dying.
Unwashed.
And so he left thinking he was a failure in finding the bullet with the president with the bullet. And Garfield was getting he was by the way, he was trying to do presidential things, but it got worse and worse and worse and worse, and his wife had to come back from the shore and was there. Finally, they decided he's dying.
Right.
He's dying.
How long has this been now?
Months. I'll tell you when he died.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm going to tell you when he died. But
okay.
What they did is they brought him to the shore.
Yeah.
Put him in a room with a lot of breeze, because where he was in the White House, Dr. Bliss believed keep the windows closed, the shades closed, so he was in a dark, hot room.
Oh my goodness!
There was no air conditioning.
Right.
Which allowed the germs to fester even worse.
Right. Wow.
And so they brought him to the shore, where by that point in time he was too far gone, and he passed away not from the shooting. He passed away because the doctors didn't know what the F they were doing.
Wow.
And he died from infection. He died, let me get the exact date that he died. He died in September of 1881.
And he got shot in July.
So you got August, September. Yeah, 2-3 months later.
That is horrendous.
Yeah.
What happened to the shooter?
He was arrested.
Yeah.
He got himself an attorney. By the way, they found out because he was acting like, he was staying at the fancy hotels.
Right.
He had no money on him.
Of course.
And of course they took his revolver. He went and he lawyered up. He did his autobiography, had that available, and then he lawyered up and basically said, I didn't assassinate the president. I attempted to kill him, but I didn't. He's alive. He's in the White House living. And then when he died from infection, which was what he died from,
right?
He said, I didn't kill him. I didn't assassinate him to death. He died from the doctors. It was a defense that didn't work.
Oh, okay.
It didn't.
Like, no way he got off.
It didn't work at all, and he was hung.
Oh, good.
And he died. They hung him. So that I find it so fascinating that he was in office only for 4 months, lingered for 3 months, and died from infection. And they found the bullet, by the way, not where they were looking. The bullet had drifted, and it was near his spinal column. But I think if you go to, I don't know if it's the Library of Congress or the Garfield Museum, you can see the bullet. The bullet is on display for everybody to see. Did not hit a vital organ.
So if they would have washed their hands and cleaned the instruments, he could have survived.
He would have. He would have survived.
Incredible.
It was being filthy hands. And keep in mind, people didn't bathe every day either. You were lucky if you found a bath once a week. What was under your fingernails? What was on your hands?
Right.
What was on those? Look at a floor. Look at the floor where you work.
Right.
You want to eat off that?
No.
Was there some 3-second rule? He lied on the floor for hours.
Right, that's true.
So there you go. There's a little interesting fact.
Is that the shortest term of a president? Do you know?
No. There's one shorter than that.
Oh.
We'll get into that in another time.
Okay,
but there is one shorter. There's something that people can do. Here's a little history thing for you. Okay. Go look it up. Find out who was the shortest termed president of the United States.
Yeah, and if you'd like to answer that question, you can go to our Facebook page.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We got a Facebook page.
We do. We're official. We're Facebook official, as they call it.
All right.
It's called Beyond Mount Rushmore, and this has been episode 1 of Beyond Mount Rushmore. I am Jeff Hickox.
And I'm Stan Novelonic, a self-proclaimed, and I am self-proclaimed. It's almost like a professor, authority on presidential history.
We hope you've enjoyed it.
See ya.